9,700 brands launched. So the availability of goods and services and products have increased. E-commerce has grown. We realize that the shifts in advertising and brand building, which is really keeping it real, which is I almost become like the mantra, small acts can truly make a big difference or go along the way of making a big difference. And Austin also spoke about the two segments of society which are impacted, the ones who are financially impacted and the ones who are I won't say not impacted, but maybe insulated to some extent. And then the report which has just come out, then Rachna, is a little bit worrying for us, right? Because worrying because you know that the potential to give is there in absolute economic terms. I mean, business growth markets of consumer purchases is demonstrating that. The fact is that we are moving towards a slightly more compassionate society is what I'd like to believe. अभी आप LinkedIn पे देखोगे कितने लोग लिखते हैं कि I've lost a job. We are all commenting because it gives you a better reach. We're doing that. We're trying to help out wherever we can. But the point of if I can say discord, or the point that should get us to wonder is, अगर ये दोनों चीजें हैं and giving is not going up, and I'd like to understand from the both of you, what is it that purchasing, let's not use the word shopping because shopping then means it's beauty and cosmetics and clothes and shoes, but let's just say, what is it that the purchasing decision is doing for an individual? What does a giving decision do for an individual? Is there a way that we can extend the purchasing decision feeling, whatever it gives back to the individual? How do I basically build that into nudging, giving behavior? Because that for me is the crux of the matter. That is what we need to know. I mean, predictive modeling करके कोई मतलब नहीं कि इतने सारे हैं, इतना सारा पेरोल गिविंग्स है, प्रोग्राम्स है, इतने मेरे सारे इंडिविजुअल डोनर्स है, वॉलंटियर्स है, मुझे उनसे पैसे चाहिए. अगर मैं अज्यूम करूं कि 100 रुपया मुझे, giving is an emotional decision. Shopping is, or purchasing is also an emotional decision, because purchasing has two categories. जो necessary है, we won't touch about that. The other thing is impulse buying. We all know it. Brands have been built, companies' successes have been realized because of, call it impulse, call it validation, calling that momentary joy. MasterCard built its thing on that. For everything else, there's MasterCard. So, and I know both of you will have great stories to tell us. So, Rachna, over to you.
Yeah, so this is the whole thing, that whole 2x increase in Amazon transaction is because they've actually worked. और ये जो increase आ रहा है, ये tier 2 cities से आ रहा है. A lot of it is from the tier 2 cities, and it's not about surviving any longer. वो कह रहे हैं सब thrive कर रहे हैं. और why is it? Because consumerism is driving it. और क्यों कर रहे हैं? While there is pandemic, there are lower salaries and all of that, it's because it's making them feel good about themselves. It's bringing some sense of normality to their lives. सब घर के अंदर बंद है, सब घर से काम कर रहे हैं, सब लिटरली ये जो बॉम्बे वर्ड होता है ना, पक गए हैं, सब पक गए हैं. And that's what the brands have got to. They've said, अच्छा अब क्या हो रहा है, अब आप लोग पक गए, अब क्या कर सकते हैं आप घर पे बैठकर. So this whole thing of consumerism is driving that. It's touched on that key thing, right? तो जैसे हम प्री पैंडेमिक में जीते थे, वैसे अब कैसे जी सकते हैं. Reality में, that's what the whole thing is. How do you survive in this reality? So brands touched on that. Restaurant का खाना घर पे ले आओ, right? Lounge wear पहनो जो office wear है but घर का wear भी है, वो पहनो. और ऑफिस के जो टूल्स है वो घर पे ले आओ, so that it makes working in this thing so good. और क्या essentials है? So there's a very big thing. What is essential to your life? There is so many things which is essential to your life. You'll realize that it is not the groceries. It is so many things. It's that printer cartridge which is not coming because you need to print that sheet before your meeting. So वो essential हो गया है अब. So many things have changed, and all those brands have pretty much touched on that whole thing. They've touched on how do we make people feel good? कैसे normalcy आए? कैसे pre-pandemic की तरह how do we bridge that gap? और कैसे वो जो है ना कि पक गए तो उनको क्या क्या अलग अलग चीजें कर सकते हैं, क्योंकि पहले पहले अलग था. लास्ट टाइम विजया जब हमने बात करी थी, दैट टाइम इट जस्ट स्टार्टेड, वो बहुत डिफरेंट
Yes,
सिनेरियो था.
correct.
इस टाइम राउंड, which is why if you look at the lockdown also, it's not that strict. People बहुत जा रहे हैं because अब people का हो गया, अब
Hmm.
हो गया सबका, अब कितना कितना हो सकता है. तो एट दिस पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम सब लोग नॉर्मलसी ढूंढ रहे हैं. सो उस नॉर्मलसी में ब्रांड्स कैसे कनेक्ट करेंगे, दैट इज अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग. एंड मे बी लेटर ऑन आई विल टॉक अबाउट कि ब्रांड्स ने क्या करा,
Hmm.
क्या
Okay.
करा ब्रांड्स ने, which may not answer this question of what, but I want to be able to talk about कि ये ब्रांड्स ने क्या करा to make use of it. How
Okay.
have they launched those? How have they launched those products? How have they increased the profit for all of those? The 50 top companies in India have actually increased profit. And how do we convert that to the social sector is actually what, you know, I'd like to talk about at some point in time.
Yes,
So.
Yes,
absolutely.
correct. Yeah, right. So just to add again, so you're talking about Amazon, the value or the volume of purchase that is increasing. So one is the brands would have connected there. Another one is obviously the shift from the actual retail purchase to the online purchase, and obviously the online channels would have benefited there. But if you look at the Amazon, I'm saying they also have tapped into what we were talking earlier in terms of buying local, because in Amazon now you have separate page by itself for local stuff, okay, which they've launched in the last 1 year. I'm saying where you're there, they're supporting local stuff, and because that that connect of wanting to support local is there, and Amazon has realized it, and they also have got that thing. So similarly, uh, one more data that I'd seen was about Tracto, which is a healthcare
Yes.
online thing. So
Yeah.
Tracto also reported about 10x times increase in terms of how many people have used it between April to 2020, when we were in the lockdown period, to November. Okay, so even things like healthcare has gone online. Okay, because now they are encouraged to seek consultation, and you can buy things, even my medicines, everything online. So that those are things which is online. Uh, so when we are at home, when people are spending more time at home, um, the trick is to see how you can, I'm saying, how you can make people purchase sitting in the comfort of the home. So things, they don't want to go out. I'm saying that your impulse purchase also will come down, would have come down, is what I would say. Because when you go to retail, I'm saying you do shop around, you do window shopping and all those things. But now whenever, if you're going out at even to buy, a lot of people go with a specific purpose, go into that shop, buy that specific things, and come out fast. They don't want to spend too much time in
Yeah.
the shop. And in an online purchase as well, I'm saying the impulse purchase is low as compared to a regular online purchase. So people are more conscious about what they're purchasing, and that discretionary spending has come down, and that is showing up in the purchase behavior that we are seeing.
Okay. I hear what I hear both of you, but I'm still going to come back to the first one of the first things then is I know that I don't speak only on behalf of the audience which is here, but a lot of nonprofits out there, you know, um, products, merchandise, whether it's been done by the self-help groups or whether it's been done by certain program participants. We know a lot of children who are, differently abled and, special children and uh, there are a lot of self-reliance building programs which social purpose organizations run to kind of provide stipends and through the sale and purchase of their products, right? Do we see that as a very, very sort of a target segment of products and goods which consumers and given their appetite to purchase will do it? Is the purchasing behavior only influenced because मैं पक गई हूँ and I need to feel normal and I'm going to do it, uh, and they feel good about it? Is there a way that this behavior can be extended where people would buy because in buying you're going to make somebody else feel good? How do we see that playing out?
Yeah. So, Vijay, let me take that first, because there was a recent McKinsey report which was saying that across the world, the we are moving to a community feeling, because the movement from an individualistic feeling to a to more collectivist or community thing is growing, is a trend. So traditionally, if you look at it, the West, which is the US or the developed world, were more are relatively more individualistic, and as compared to
Yes.
countries like India and others. But even in the West, due to this pandemic, the uh, I'm saying you're looking at society, you're looking at collaboration, you're looking at as a whole, rather than there's a shift from I to we. Okay,
Yeah.
because and that is going to stay. So this can be seen. This shift from I to we can be seen in the buyer motivation towards products, towards how you consume services, how you consume the experiences. Okay, and this social harmony is actually going to will have an impact on what we purchase and what we buy.
Yeah, actually, that's such an interesting one, this whole shift from I to we. And I'm actually going to just take off right from where you ended, Austin. And and I'm going to suggest stuff which basically helps people shift from that I to we. Yeah.
Okay,
So what
that's
is
good.
it that the people in the social sector need to do to shift from that I to we? How do we? So while you can have brands which people feel good about, the social sector and all of us have to do a bit to make it into encourage people to buy, right? And what do we therefore need to do to encourage them to buy? It's about being empathy. Whenever we are talking about our brands, it's about empathy. It's about causes that speak the language. We have to, this is a learning from the big businesses. The businesses who've gained are businesses which talk that language. They talk the language of localism, which Austin and Vijaya both checked about earlier. They talked about the language of what is essential, what is important, what is personalized. Things like mental health. Now that's become a really big thing that everybody's talking about. Things like digital. Now digital is important. Digital is so important. Everything has moved to digital, and that's actually caused a lot of boom in the industry, as Austin rightly mentioned. But what is important in digital? How do we use it? It's about content, right? So one is actually talk about empathy, be seen part of the ecosystem. So talk about the community, about the environment, about the purpose, localism, essential, important, personalized, all of that. That's one end of it. So that's really one, the what do you do to actually shift from I to we. The second is how do you do it? You do it by content. So digital, obviously, digital is the one medium today which has plummeted. Everybody has actually gained on digital. All the sales have happened on digital, and there are so many stories that are there with there. But what kind of digital has happened? Content. So content is way more important than just ads. Content in the form of story. What is important is audio. What is important is video. So video की जो reach है. So if you can see somebody dancing or singing, कि खाना बना रहे हैं, ये कर रहे हैं, वो कर रहे हैं, उसका इतना importance हो गया क्योंकि सब घर पे बैठे हुए हैं, सब content देख रहे हैं. एक statistic थी, which मैं read out करूंगी यहाँ पे, कि Indians watched 4 million years of content in the first week of lockdown. 2.4 years of content was watched in the first week of lockdown. So content has become really, really important. But content में video is important, audio is important, big visuals are very important. और real experiences क्या है? कैसे real experiences को हम यूज कर सकते हैं to be able to talk like that. हाँ? दसरा ने एक रिसर्च करी थी बेन के साथ. उन्होंने बोला था कि फॉर द सोशल सेक्टर एजुकेशन या हेल्थ में नहीं है आप लोग तो फिर क्या करो. सो देन द होल थिंग इज leapfrog on it. To link karo, and I'll tell you a really interesting thing that a brand did. So there was this, link कैसे करो health के साथ. Now soap brands वो तो link कर सकते हैं सीधे wash hands and soap करो और sanitize करो COVID में, वो तो सही है. But एक shampoo ad ने क्या करा, उन्होंने mental health से link करा. उन्होंने 14 दिन, because it's used on the head, उन्होंने 14 दिन का मेंटल हेल्थ कैंपेन करा, जिसमें they had speakers, they had people talking and all of that, and it became something that a shampoo was talking about. Yeah, so that became important कि कैसे कैसे link कर सकते हैं हम, क्या link कर सकते हैं इधर. So that became very important. कैसे बात करेंगे? Instagram has become the biggest thing that can influence people.
Yes.
और क्या change आया है influencers में?
That's right.
अब वो बड़े influencers गए, celebrity influencers गए, सब उनको देख रहे हैं, छोटे small influencers जो real हैं, जो passionate हैं, जो अपनी भाषा जानते हैं और जो जिसके बारे में जानते हैं, छोटे छोटे गार्डनिंग वाले influencers, छोटे छोटे रूफ टॉप बालकनी गार्डनिंग वाले, छोटे छोटे बेकर्स जो बेक कर रहे हैं, छोटे छोटे जो ब्यूटिशियंस कर रहे हैं, मेकअप कर रहे हैं, ये काइंड ऑफ इन्फ्लुएंसर्स जो छोटे वाले हैं, जो स्मॉल है, ऑथेंटिक है, पैशनेट है और बिल्कुल ट्रू टू है और जो सस्टेन कर सकते हैं, ये दैट इज द बेस्ट वे ऑफ डूइंग इट. And then the last thing that I want to talk about, how do we really do this, is there is family giving. That report talked about how family given has increased. Family given has increased by 10-12%, but retail given hasn't. And ये जो family givers हैं, ये जो big foundation givers हैं, उनको सब celebrate करते हैं. But जो individual giver है, उसको कोई celebrate नहीं करता. So while we do all of this whole thing of going from, I to we is about also celebrating that individual giver. And that conversion जो है, celebrate the small giver. Make that giver feel good about being part of your organization. So some things like this, I feel, is actually what will get, as Austin talked about, the I to we.
So I think that's absolutely so true, Rachna. हम सोचते थे कि, I'm actually going to talk in terms of the BC period, which is the before COVID period. Pardon my not so pleasant, the connotation attached with the acronym. But हमें लगता था कि अगर हमारे पास बड़े से बड़े सेलिब्रिटी एंडोर्सर्स हैं, बिकॉज वी यूज्ड टू डू द फंड रेजिंग गालाज, एक फाउंडेशन डे हुआ करता था, वीड हैव समबडी टू कम एंड एंडोर्स इट. We felt that would, and it did bring, I won't say कि नहीं था, celebrity endorsements have their place, somebody who's very aligned to a cause. But what has changed in the last 15-16 महीने में across, see, the only medium that can currently influence is digital, only digital. और उसमें भी हमें ये समझ में आ गया है कि हम कोई एक चीज है जो कुछ सेकंड्स के बाद चल रहा है, we lose interest, we are already scrolling up, हम लोग नहीं पढ़ रहे हैं, right? And yes, अगर हम लोग कंटेंट ही देखते हैं, the last session in this segment of digital dialogues, next week we're going to talk about consumption of whatever's being of content. But coming back to this, the influencers, Rachna, Austin, are really the real people. हमने कितने सारे वीडियोस देखे हैं अक्रॉस इंस्टाग्राम, अक्रॉस फेसबुक, जो एक हेयर ड्रेसर है, एंड दीज वर लॉट ऑफ दीज हेयर ड्रेसर्स आर समवेयर इन अदर पार्ट्स ऑफ द वर्ल्ड. टर्की में है, कोई लंदन में है, कोई कहीं है. होमलेस वालों को लेके दे गिव देम अ मेकओवर. salons उस टाइम बंद है, या I don't know how businesses are going, but what stood out was the passion and the kindness and the compassion with that hairdresser bought. There was a campaign which generated huge amount of money when a girl from a village, I don't have the exact details, in fact it was discussed very recently, who could manage to raise money, and it was for something very small and specific. आज तक हम वो दो इंडिविजुअल्स को नहीं भूल पाए. एक जो सिक्योरिटी गार्ड जो यहाँ से साइकिल को लेके अपने फादर के पास कश्मीर में, जिनको हु हैड अ स्ट्रोक, एंड देन ऑफ कोर्स द आर्मी काइंड ऑफ हेल्प्ड हिम आउट, वो एक कहानी याद है हमें. और दूसरी वो लड़की जो उसके पापा को साइकिल पे बिठा के शी साइकिल्ड हिम बैक टू देयर विलेज इन बिहार. व्हाई डू वी रिमेंबर दीज स्टोरीज? Or why do we remember the 5-star chef who got laid off and he went to open a food stall selling biryani in Bangalore, and he became he's so successful? Why do we remember these stories? Because they are real. They show the vulnerability. They show the vulnerability in a positive light. And that is what human resilience is. We still have to tap into human resilience, because uske alawa hamare paas filhal kuch bhi nahi hai. Because we need to constantly go back to it. So if this is what people remember, if this is what helps us connect with it, what is your message to all the people listening in? आप अपने message को, जब आप, whether you're asking for money, whether you want somebody to buy your product which your community members have made, what are the three fundamental things that you are going to tell them? You want to start off with that, Austin?
Yeah, let me. So, so let me look at the non-profits or that and see how this is going to impact them, and how what are the learnings that can be taken from here. Uh, when you look at non-profits, there is, I would say, there are three specific stakeholders there. One is the beneficiary, for which the whole existence of the non-profits is for the beneficiaries, and then there is the donors, and then there are employees. So the beneficiaries, I'm saying, that's now in this today's world, I think the request for or the role of non-profits and the role of social organizations could be much higher, because there is a lot more need for them to intervene. There is a lot more demand for the services, but at the same time, the traditional donor and the employees, I'm saying, shortage of employees, the logistics challenges, all etc. There's a challenge in terms of meeting to the increased demands, meeting to the even their existing whatever they're doing. Now, in that segment, now if you look at the beneficiaries, see what are the some of the new beneficiaries that has come in. Now, say for example, Regina was talking about mental. I would say the how the mental feeling. I'm saying the how people it's impacting their mental well-being. So there are segments, say for example, even students. So they see students, they are used to, they need that social interaction. They've been going to colleges. Now they are confined to their home, just watching their videos and everything without any social interaction. You're telling them. So there is a problem with them. I'm saying in terms of how you deal with that, with their mental well-being. There are the gap, as you said. I'm saying you were mentioning the top 50 companies have actually grown. So the gap between the rich and the richer, the poor, the gap between the haves and the have-nots, the gap between the privileged and the non-privileged has actually widened. Okay, so there is a segment who's gone go at the Ambanis and the Adanis and the Bezos, and everybody has become multiple times richer. At the same time, we have there are a lot a huge segment of the people who have gone below. Okay, so that compassion and everything to help people who are in trouble, I'm saying that's also something that will appeal, and that is something that will be there for people. So then there are people in the rural women. I'm saying I want to talk about women. So because of this work from home concept, I'm saying the segment of people who are most impacted would be the women, because you have your everybody working from home, studying from home, the entire family is at home, and women, especially if they're working, they need to balance the most of the household responsibility and chores, the kitchen responsibility, all fall into women. So there was an interesting study, I think I was reading, where somebody was asked, or people were asked, how are you sharing the household responsibilities? About 77% of the men felt they are equally sharing the responsibilities, while only 40% of the women felt men are doing equally. So obviously the women has got more responsibilities, and they feeling the pressure, and that's and lot more women are now I'm saying finding it difficult to balance between this, the work and so that's another segment who's going through this mental trauma in terms of how do you balance this, how do I do this. And if you go into the poor segment, I'm saying recently, just 2 days back, I think somebody was I was reading in the newspaper that in the rural segment, the women, even though whenever even if they're getting any symptoms for COVID, they are not willing to test. and they're not willing to test, because what they're saying is, if I test and if I become positive, who will take care of the house? Okay, so that's a big segment. The as I said, the students are a big segment for this for at this point of time, who would need more support and more interventions from the social organizations. And yeah.
Rachna, again,
So,
I think, given that we hear about what's, like I again said, like we hear about what's happening with the way the buying behavior is going. We understand the points of validation that individuals receive. And the fact of the matter is, to echo Austin, I don't think there is a lack of understanding anywhere about the role, the relevance, the requirement, and the absolute need of civil society organizations like non-profit organizations and other SPOs to drive their causes and what they're doing. What we really need to know, and I again come back to that, what will it take to get a larger group of potential buyers to buy their products, to buy their goods, and to support their programs at an individual? I'm only talking about individual giving.
right. So, I'm going to now actually just leapfrog on the things that the companies did to make these people do that. And what is it that we need to do in the social sector to actually encourage more giving? And as Austin said, from the haves, the difference between the haves and the have-not, how do you bridge that gap? One is that right now giving is spread out all over, a little bit here, a little bit there. We need to consolidate focus, and there has to be no waste. Name and legacy matters, right, from family. So how about we actually take communities? Family Foundation is big. And in fact, they're saying that the Family Foundation money, there's so few NGOs that can take it. We don't want family foundations because we're smaller. What we want is small people and individuals. How about communities, RWAs, buildings, right? Supposing we actually merge with them. And it's a small effort, but that small effort and celebrate them like family foundations. So something like that will make it like a direct connect, because you will be able to connect directly with them. And that's what's important, the real connect. Flexibility. That is really important right now. We have to be very, very flexible. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples, right? Which is really interesting. Big Bazaar, what they did is that they found that the senior citizens were not being able to do this whole online gaming. Everybody is going online, but how do senior citizens order groceries online? So what they did is they called them up, they linked them up in a WhatsApp order, and they took WhatsApp orders. Then there were senior citizens who were not even comfortable with WhatsApp. So they used to call them up every week and just take down pen and paper orders. So the whole point is that to survive right now, we need to be flexible. Whatever works, works. However it works, works. So, that is one thing. All of us have a way that things work. And now that way the things work was BC, before pandemic, before COVID. At this point of time, there is no one way that things work. We have to be very flexible to be able to take whatever, give whatever, and all of that. A lot of things have actually changed on their head. Everybody said talk long term. Right now, at this point of time, it's all short term.
Yeah, true.
So all of those brands that we talked about, so many of them shut. So many of them have shut. This we launch, we'll have sanitizer. Now there's no need of sanitizer. Stop sanitizer. कि कितना शॉर्ट टर्म थिंकिंग करो, अभी के लिए क्या है, अभी के लिए हम क्या कर सकते हैं, क्या गेन कर सकते हैं, लॉन्ग टर्म कोई थिंकिंग नहीं करेंगे, अभी छोटा शॉर्ट टर्म, वर्चुअल एंड रियल, ये बहुत लोगों ने बहुत इंटरेस्ट है. ऑटो इंडस्ट्री हैज गॉन अप वेरी हाई, एंड व्हाई आर पीपल बाइंग कार्स? कहीं जा तो सकते नहीं है, लॉकडाउन के अंदर घर के अंदर बंद है, लेकिन कार की जो सेल है वो चली जा रही है. कैसे चल रही है, क्या करा इन लोगों ने? कार
I think Rachna's had a internet thing and she's dropped out. And while we wait for her, I definitely think so. Matlab, I think the one point that I would definitely echo of Rachna is that, you know what, we're going to keep trying, right? And it can bring in a certain. Oh, she's back.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I just went black.
No. You're.
So just
we still can't hear you very clearly, Rachna.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Better?
We can hear you,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So just to continue the virtual and the real combo जो लोगों ने करा, तो ऑटो पूरा 360 डिग्री चला गया ऑनलाइन, बट उन्होंने क्या करा, टेस्ट ड्राइव घर पे दी, बिकॉज दैट वाज इम्पोर्टेंट। एक ज्वेलरी स्टोर ओरा ने क्या करा, उन्होंने व्हाट्सएप वीडियो कॉल पे ज्वेलरी दिखाई और जो पीसेस शॉर्टलिस्ट करे थे वो घर भेज दिए। अब हम लोग ये कैसे कर सकते हैं, कैसे ये वर्चुअल और रियल कर सकते हैं, जो हमारे लोग हैं, जो रियल लोग हैं, उनकी कहानी हम कैसे उधर ला सकते हैं। लिंकिंग जो करा, जो हम बात कर रहे थे, एजिलिटी कैसे क्विकली कर सकते हैं, ये बोल रहे थे हम। कोई लॉन्ग टर्म स्ट्रैटेजी नहीं, शॉर्ट टर्म या भी चलेगा, करो। न्यू चैनल्स कैसे अडॉप्ट करते हैं, गोदरेज है वो इंडियन रेलवे से टाई अप कर गया। कितने सारे एफएमसीजी एमटीआर जैसे मसाले हैं वो जोमेटो और स्विगी पे आ गए। अब हम लोग, किसी ने रोका है हमें सोशल सेक्टर को कि ई कॉमर्स पे नहीं जा सकते? किसने रोका है? पहले तो ई कॉमर्स पे जोमेटो और स्विगी पे सिर्फ रेस्टोरेंट जाते थे, आजकल कंपनीज जा रही है। किसने रोका है कि हम नहीं जा सकते जोमेटो स्विगी पे? हम क्यों नहीं टाई अप कर सकते? हम कैसे ये ई कॉमर्स जो है उसको कैसे टाई अप करें, उसको कैसे लास्ट माइल करें, राउंडिंग ऑफ कर सकते हैं। जब शुरू हुआ था पैंडेमिक तो जोमेटो स्विगी ने बोला जो आपका बिल है उसको राउंड अप कर दीजिए, वो डिलीवरी एजेंट पे जाएगा। व्हाई कैन नॉट वन सोशल सेक्टर, वन नॉट फॉर प्रॉफिट टाई अप विद से जोमेटो, और वो राउंडिंग अप करके जो सारा पैसा राउंडिंग अप पे जाए उधर? कोई रियल स्टोरी हो, कैसे नहीं हो सकता? तो ये जो है मार्केटिंग स्ट्रेटजीज पिवट्स, ये जो इंपॉर्टेंट है टू मेक दैट चेंज। और कैसे बात करेंगे, जैसे हमने बात करा था कि एम्पैथी, सोशल, लोकलिज्म, शॉर्ट टर्म, न्यू थिंकिंग, ट्राई करो, यूज करो, डिस्कार्ड करो, नहीं चले नहीं चले कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, अभी करो, डिस्कार्ड करो, फोकस करो, जो आपके पहले के लोग हैं उन पे फोकस करो, कैसे इम्पैक्टफुल कम्युनिकेशन कर सकते हैं, कैसे एफिशिएंटली कर सकते हैं, कोई वेस्ट नहीं करेंगे, कैसे हम रियल हो सकते हैं। So that's basically the sum of what I think we need to do as an industry.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Austin, you want to add something else to that?
Yeah. I just want to add. See, while whatever Rajna said in terms of how you communicate and everything is very important, and empathy and other things is very important. The method of reaching the consumer, reaching the segment, I'm saying the infrastructure required is also becoming so. I'm saying we need to invest into digital kind of an infrastructure and how people donate and how people give. I'm saying we should be able to enable digital donations, online donations, which are not just putting up a website and saying that uh, you can click there and buy, but maybe a donation right in the right inside an app or right inside wherever it is. That's what the young consumers are doing, and getting into monthly subscriptions or monthly things, so which is actually win-win for both. I'm saying you one, the consumers commit to it, and then even for the people who are getting it, I'm saying you have a fixed source of income, kind of it's a monthly recurring kind of a thing. So the digital infrastructure to enable payments quickly, I'm saying without having to go through multiple channels, without having to take an extra step, as soon as they see the message and as soon as they think about donating, if it can be enabled to pay them at that right thing, that will help. Similarly, we need to look at, see, now toolbox and Vijaya itself has gone from dialogues to digital dialogues. So similarly, where I used to have the fundraising events. Now we should be looking at, there are virtual fundraising events. So where you bring the event into virtual space, and then people view it from on their comfort of the home and donate it. So those means is also important. While communication, everything is works and people get the feeling to donate, I'm saying the ability for them to donate, I'm saying at that moment, fast convenience is critical.
Wonderful. Um, so, so you know what? I think I'm just going to reinforce, what both of you are saying. To all of you who are tuning in, before we throw this open to the audience, I think there are pockets of opportunity and potential that we need to tap into. I think messaging is very important. I think the need to constantly keep experimenting is there. I know, and I say this as I see, my communications team on this call as well. Um, we've constantly have to figure out, what we need to do, what should our messaging be, because there's so much which is out there, right? Uh, and I think for all the organizations that we work with and that we know, and many uh, more who are out there, to draw attention to your work, to draw attention to the fact that the cause and the program and the community that you're working with is very important and is relevant, is pertinent, and is needed, I think is the biggest sort of bridge to cross over, not once but repeatedly. You know, that's one of the things we've realized, that we have to constantly keep going back to it. Uh, Today is not really a session around how do we get the messaging across, what should we be saying, because Rachna, I think, has briefly touched upon what are the words that have really worked in the corporate world. What is it that consumers are looking at? Austin, if I'm not mistaken, I know, I don't know whether it was TCS or it was another group company of the Tatas, which actually did not talk about their business. They spoke about the last mile delivery that they impacted, and the last mile uh, number of households that they impacted. And that, I think, was such a fundamental shift in the way companies are talking about their work. uh, I think and I think that's a huge reverse learning that corporations have got. And also, I think fundamental uh, fundamental is the understanding of what are those behaviors of consumers, of societies, that they should actually be tapping into. And I think that's the key message which we're giving out to the audience. You could be in education, you could be in senior citizens welfare, you could be in mental health, you could be on equality and gender, wearing the gender lens, you could be doing something on disability. There is not one segment and cause which has not been impacted by what the world is witnessing. And it makes it difficult. It makes it difficult for anybody who's looking to give. My heart is here, I want to support this, but I also want to support this. And giving is not, I think the two biggest things is giving behaviors. They need not be perennial, and they need not be repetitive to the same thing. So I don't think the principles of brand loyalty can necessarily apply, because the lens what you're wearing here is truly compassion. I I am buying a particular shampoo because it makes my hair look good. I love the fact that the shampoo brand that I'm buying has a huge social responsibility messaging and action around it, which is going to make me go back to the product. There's a combination. Out here, um, I understand that education and this program is important, but right now nutrition is compromised. So I want to support nutrition. Mental health, there is no corporate funding available for mental health. So you know what? I'm going to support this. So you see, the levers of behaviors are slightly different here, which is why to have perennial giving and to have repetitive giving is not something that we can expect our donors to give. And so for the time they are there, we're going to have to, be able to access it. But the pressure, or the strategy or the plans that organizations need to make has to constantly be there, to realize that you will have an attrition of givers and to keep replenishing that pool of givers. Am I right in saying so?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you've touched upon some of the biggest things. Be consistent, constantly drill that message down, show that it's a real problem, show that it's a real need. Do that in a way that makes sense, by content, by video, by audio. Use new channels which you never used before. It doesn't matter. It's okay. It's okay to use them. It's okay to connect with them and be in people's faces, but you have to show them that it's real, because as Vijaya said, there are so many causes. There are so many things on everybody's mind. How do you get them to go for you? how do you get you to stand out? Is by doing it, by being real, by connecting with them constantly, consistently, frequently, and think in the short term. Do something, go on, go on, go on, keep changing, keep learning, and keep doing that.
See, I think one big thing that is different between and when you're looking at an individual giver to when you're reaching out to an institutional donor is this, people. Donor ko and a large institutional donor ko, we start off by saying what we've done, what the impact of what we've done. These are the numbers. This is what the team has been doing. We've got this great program. We've got this great curriculum. When you're reaching to an individual donor, put yourself out of that equation. Make the messaging so direct between the giver and the recipient that everything that you do is immaterial. You will come into the focus when you need to demonstrate the transparency, the trust.
That's right.
That's a secondary conversation. It's after you have established a very, very direct sort of a link between I'm sorry, just give me a minute, please.
Yeah, I
No, I think,
completely agree what
sorry.
Vijay was saying. Yeah.
Yeah, go
No,
ahead, Austin.
I was about to come to exactly what Vijay was trying to reach out. I'm saying the two words that I was.
Please, I'm on a conference
Yeah.
call. You tell her, usko bolo ki not today. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
I think that, sorry.
yeah, two words that she said: trust and transparency. I think
Yeah.
that's critical, and I think that's. I was about to come to those two words: trust and transparency. When you come to individual donors,
Yeah.
and today, and I would say that you can use digital means to increase the transparency bit. Okay, to exactly show them uh, who is getting impacted, who is the person, who are you giving to. I'm saying that that can be bridged a bit with the digital means in terms of increasing the transparency bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
In fact,
So,
that
yeah.
giving research that we done last year, sorry, just to add on. So along with trust and transparency, visibility, those were the three
Mhm,
key things:
mhm.
trust, transparency, and visibility. Those
That's
are
right.
the must do's in any situation. More so valuable now, for sure. Yeah, over to you.
All right. Thank you. Sorry. These are the perils and pitfalls of working from home. There's constantly someone at the intercom and door. All right. So I think we've covered quite a bit of things, and I actually want to throw this open to the audience. And I'm actually going to really put my team under a bit of the spotlight today.
So
And
before that, I just want to add one more thing about how we can tap in, how the because this is it's the people. We didn't talk about the people. I wanted to just talk about the people, uh, which is, see, today there are a lot of people who have the time. I'm saying they're currently at home, or they are in rural areas. They have got it, and they can be tapped into. And you don't need to today look at being confined to a particular geography location to get people. Okay, because even from our company, we have now gone completely work from home. So the one thing that I'm noticing is that I am picking up people from tier 2, tier 3 cities who are equally good, and who can contribute at the same way, which they were not in the market earlier, because there was a location constraint that was there. Now, since we have taken out the location constraints out of it, there are a lot more people available. So that should be a same case for non-profits as well, in terms of getting people to work for them who are from uh, good skilled people who are actually in. I'm saying location constraint is not there, and obviously I'm saying they would also be not be expecting huge pay packets. I'm saying so that's one more opportunity area that we have because of the work from home infrastructure that is there.
okay, on that note, I want to throw this open for, I did go through the sort of chat box, and while I will kind of, touch upon some things which I agree are important, but not completely contextual to the session today. I actually wanted to, ask somebody from my team, Hiranya, Vyoma, you know, um, both of you, Hiranya, you've been working on the whole sort of communicating the messaging out in terms of whether it is the work that Toolbox does, whether it's also talking about some of the work that our NGO partners do. Do you have any questions around the messaging for Rachna here? I don't know if Hiranya's. Okay, I don't see Hiranya here. So I'm going to therefore ask you, Rachna. Very simply, one of the things that Toolbox does is also, we definitely talk about our nonprofit partners, right? And whether it is aligned to a particular day, the World Mental Health Day or whatever. Um, what should be the messaging that goes beyond celebrating the work that they're doing?
I think the messaging from Toolbox actually should be also very hard on this whole trust and transparency that we talked about, because you're an organization and a body. While every NGO and NPO can always talk about themselves being trustworthy and transparent, how does the person know? Right? So we've talked about it sometime in the past, that some sort of validation where it becomes that because you're part of Toolbox, because and therefore that gives you the validity that as an organization you're doing really good real world work. So I think that's something that if Toolbox could sort of work towards it, not today obviously, but in the long term, short work towards it, that the stamp of Toolbox, being part of a Toolbox, being
Yes.
part of an NGO and NP, part of Toolbox, is validation enough, and it gives every individual donor a feeling that yes, I can donate to these people, the money is going the right way, and these guys are serious people who do a really great job. I think if you could do that, that one thing will actually make such a large difference to your entire 100 plus not-for-profit and NGO partners.
Thank you so much, Rachna.
I know it's easier said than done.
No, it's not. And just said that the word just went from, the number is not 100, it's actually 650. So, but that's a good number to have.
Wow.
Yes, Ajay. Ajay had a question. Do you want to go ahead and ask that? Ajay, you may want to switch on your camera when you're doing that. Go ahead.
Yeah, I hope. Yeah, Rachna, I think you sort of touched upon this when you answered your previous question. But my question really is how, so given Toolbox is an example, an organization that works in organizational development, works with other NGOs, how does the messaging sort of change between that kind of an organization, like even Social Lens, and an organization that actually implements programs that directly works with beneficiaries? Now, we have sort of our way of doing this, but I would want to understand from you, like, what do you think is sort of the best way of going about this?
Right. So I think there's a very, very clear distinction between one who's actually in the field and doing that versus somebody who's hosting it, so to say, or being party to it. So it's a credible agency versus the real. So the organization which is actually in the field should clearly be focusing on the message on what they have done. Make it real. The person, the individual, the connect has to be that clear that this is what we do. That really is the clarity that an organization who's in the field needs to bring. This is exactly what we do. And for organizations like Social Lens, like Toolbox, and other organizations which are supporting these organizations, so to say, for those organizations, it's really important to be the support, to guide them. And the messaging, therefore, has to change in that sense. It has to be about what they have done, right? So I don't know whether you got the distinction. So I'll take an example. So if you look at somebody who's in the gender issue, for example, an organization will talk about that we did so many initiatives, and in this initiative, this is what we did, and this is how it changed, and all of that. For you as Social Lens, the messaging should clearly be about the fact that it's about celebrating the organization, celebrating the entirety of what they bring to the whole family of the social sector, right? So if you do that along with what they do, the other thing that I know, and this is such a difficult thing to do, what I'm going to say is to synchronize. If for some sense the messaging of each individual organization could be synchronized with what your messaging is, so that 1 + 1 = 5. And that's the way it has to be. It cannot be that it cannot be the same messaging being repeated. It has to be complementary, it has to be overarching, and it has to be synchronized to make it a much larger whole like that. I'm giving you very general guidelines. At any point of time you want to talk specifics, I'm happy to talk specifics with you. Then we can take a organization and you and see how we work on that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but that was helpful. Thanks, Rachna. Yeah.
So I think I'm just going to field a couple of questions. Minnie, how can we ask for capacity building of team from donors? Minnie, I think the fact that capacity building is something that donors recognize. We've been touching upon it through our social lens cohorts as well, which we just concluded. Yes, there are capacity building grants which are coming out. The pay what it gives report from pay what it takes report from Britspan actually really talks is sending out the message to donors. I think, and I know there are committed organizations, but they're few and far between. I think even in the philanthropic ecosystem, there's a lot of efforts being made to really drive that, the need to really support capacity building of teams from donors. And, I think the only thing, and I say this because both Social Lens and Toolbox, we are really in the capacity building space. What I will say this is that capacity building also has different connotations and meanings. Right now, the biggest capacity building initiative is really supporting organizations adopt or just get digitally aware. So you've got the Digital Empowerment Foundation, you've got, I know that Dhwani Rural Integrated Systems is running something, and they've actually received funding for it. But again, the capacity building is going also towards last mile individuals, which means program beneficiaries, participants, how they can actually use it. How do you get teachers trained so that they're able to adopt digital technologies for the continuity of their programs? So there's always a priority, sort of a pecking order to the capacity building funding that's available. Having said that, if there's a way for you to look at how you can ask for out of 100%, and you were to say, give us 8 to 12% of the grant towards capacity building, and you're able to tie up that capacity building outcome to your program delivery improvement, you can actually reach out to that. That would be my response to that. I know Sandeep from SES, with whom we worked back in the day, said that, yes, we need to really build in a lot of digital infrastructure. Yes, you do. I think that's the reality of it. Do watch us. We're launching a new initiative under Social Lens, which will come about soon, which is a new collective that we're launching, and we'll have a lot more of virtual labs. So if you're following us on social media, the announcements will be there. I think 2-3 of you touched upon mental health. I don't think there's any conversation these days which happens without the impact of COVID and the impact of, and the mental health sort of repercussions on individuals. And it is there across, it is there among the haves, it is there among the have-nots. I don't know where it is more. I know it is there among kids, and the manifestations of these are very different. Some of it are so covert, we don't realize it, right? We snap, where we get easily anxious about things which we were relatively not so anxious about, simply because we are in this constant state of anxiety. We don't know which action of ours can affect us right now. We don't know what is the right way of doing things, wrong way of doing things. I tell this to anybody in my immediate circle: stop consuming too much of information about COVID. Let's stop looking at the numbers. We're not policy experts. We're not public health experts. What we can do is keep ourselves safe and responsible to ourselves first, and to the people around us. Beyond that, India ka jansankhya is 130 crores. I'm not a statistician. I'm not a modeling expert. I'm not an epidemiologist, but the numbers are going to grow. We don't know for how long. Stop looking at the numbers. Stop talking about it. Uh, Consume only that part of the information which keeps you aware so that you are responsible. That's my very, very generalized, sort of oversimplified statement. Uh, Not because I don't uh, understand the impact of mental health and its ramifications and manifestations, but it is something that as individuals we need to take care and, you know, and to the circle of people around us, we also need to be able to kind of be very cognizant of it and what it can mean with to our co-workers and to the teams that we manage, right? And this is not a HR session, so how do we balance productivity? How do we balance what people are expected to do? We spoke about accountability and emotional intelligence last time. Underlying all of this, mental health is something that is very real. It's just around, it's lurking. It's probably even lurking in our mind in those recesses that we don't understand. So that would be a sign off from me. Before that, I know Sreeya has insisted we all take a picture. So can I request you all to switch on your cameras? The last session of this digital dialogues will be next week with Shamira Purohit. She's a Instagram influencer. She's a digital marketing specialist, and she's going to talk a little bit more. She's in Germany going through the third lockdown as we speak, but she's been associated with Toolbox, and she's going to talk to us before we wrap up this segment of digital dialogues. As always, Rachna, it's a delight just to sit and listen to you. There's so much that that you pack in the sort of one odd 75 minutes that we speak. Austin, I would like to believe that this is the introduction to you at Toolbox. For those of you who don't know, Austin is a friend. We went to business school together and we follow each other's work very carefully. And I hope that Austin, you will continue to come back to us and share more insights in the coming months on consumers, on behaviors, and what we all need to know.
Yeah, thank you, Vijaya. I think it's, I look forward to that. I think it was a new introduction or a baptism for me. So I think it is. I
Lovely.
hope to, yeah.
So yes, for those of
Thank
you
you
who
so
are
much,
not,
Vijaya.
thank you. For those of you who are not camera shy, please switch on your cameras. Thank you. Okay, Sreeya, we are ready.
Vijaya, thank you. I'll just take a few. Okay, yes.
Thank you
everyone.
very much. Please stay safe
Yes.
and have a lovely weekend. And we hope to see you at the concluding session. I unfortunately have to log off. There's a courier guy waiting for my signature. I've been holding him for the last 15 minutes. Thank you very much. And
Thank you, everyone.
I will have a
Bye-bye.
debrief separately with my team, and Austin, Rachna, I'll reach out to you separately. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
everybody. All the best to all the not-for-profit and all of you in that space. We wish you all the best and anything we can do to help in these difficult times. Thank you.
I echo that. Yeah, thank you.
होम डिलीवरी नहीं चलने अब चेंज केलं नाही पीठ जेवढे हलतं नाही सध्या महिनाभर नाही द्यायचं काय महिनाभर नाही का बरोबर नाही वाटत ना लोक पण काय म्हणतात